Welcome to Across the Desk and our new series in partnership with Maddie Dever, the Autistic Rambler. Maddie is a non-binary autistic advocate engaged in political advocacy, a parent of 5, and a very funny person. I think we're going to have a lot to talk about, and we look forward to you joining the conversation. Now let's get to rambling.
And welcome to the podcast. This is Maddie Dever and Elizabeth Booth. We are together, the Autistic Ramblers. Let's ramble on.
That sounded vaguely porny.
No, I would have to emphasize that was ASMR-ish.
That was who?
ASMR? Don't tell me you don't know what ASMR is.
I could tell you that I do, but I'd be lying.
Okay, let's actually get what the ASMR stands for, because that would be helpful. ASMR.
Or we could get on to what we got to talk about.
Yes, exactly. Well, we're talking about not abbreviations. We're talking about.
Good morning.
Hello.
And welcome. So we're going to try again. Good morning and welcome to Across the Desk. We're back today with our Autistic Rambler podcast and the wonderful Maddie Betty Dever.
Woohoo!
And so we kicked off we always have a pre-session, which I think is, it's, a combination of warm up and whatever else. There's another word I was going to use, but that'd be inappropriate. And today was about the Queen and Meghan Markle. We always start on these weird topics, but, timestamp, the Queen has just passed away. And I am a staunch monarchist and a firm believer that you have to do what's best for you. But as my mom said 4 years ago, that Meghan, she's trouble. In my belief.
Yes. And I'm a monarchist as well. I really enjoy the music of Queen.
Oh, that was bad. Anyway, I firmly believe Meghan has a place. I firmly believe if she gets her act together, she can do great good. We're just going to agree to disagree. And then Monday we'll say goodbye to the Queen. Because she is a champion.
Oh, Harry was saying years ago, can anybody find me somebody to love?
Well, somebody to love and somebody to be obsessed with are two different things, but let's continue on. So speaking of obsessions, today's about IEPs.
Totally excellent, fitting our
sort of. I mean, it can become an obsession. So
exactly.
IEPs are individualized education plans. I have to cough, so fill some space for a second.
All right. So IEPs are the document, the
Bible
of how a school needs to accommodate the needs of your child.
I will read what's written from the Hall School Board, which is a doodad.
Oh, I've got the Ontario government's one up here too, so we'll see if they match.
You're fancy.
72 school boards doing things 72 different ways. Only in today's Ontario education system.
Don't even get me started with what's this Stephen Leckie. Individualized education plan. An IEP is a written plan to help support student learning and achievement. It is a working document which describes the strengths and needs of a particular student, as well as the special education program and services the student is receiving within the resources available to the school board. The IEP summarizes the following: assessment data, student strengths and needs, accommodations. In this case, accommodations and strategies that will help the student access the curriculum and demonstrate learning. Special education services provided to the student, annual goals, program modifications, and alternate programming, and a transition plan for appropriate post-secondary activities such as work, further education, and community living. So IEP consists of 3 phases: developing the plan, implementing the plan, reviewing and updating the plan. Parents are supposed to be involved, and you go in for consultation and whatever. Yeah. And that makes it sound really simple, but it's not.
Yeah.
So what it says here, we'll stick with the process for right now. Beginning with your child's strengths and needs is an important first step. You can help by, obviously this is written to a parent audience, including your child in the discussions, telling the teacher what you hope your child will accomplish this year, hopes or wishes without a plan, sharing information about your child with the school. Now, we'll start picking that apart because by the time you get to the point where you are able to implement a formal or informal IEP, if you're anything like me as an autism parent, you have gone through scads and gadzooks worth of assessments of your kid.
Mhm.
For my son, started in nursery school, and we had all kinds of stuff. And then we were working with the Reach Out Center for Kids and got assessments there. And then when he was 5 or 6, we got sent to Erin Oak Kids and got assessments there. So when they talk about telling the teacher what you hope your child will accomplish this year and all that kind of stuff, that's nice. That's pretty. However, what needs to be included in that conversation are all the myriad and sundry conversations you've had with the speech therapist and the occupational therapist and potentially the physical therapist and the behavioral therapist and the general practitioner and the educational assessments and the whatever. So
Yeah. The
sorry,
disconnected community team.
I tell you, I mean, I am shocked. I am not an alcoholic having survived. Like,
Yeah, I know.
so an informal IEP is where you begin to identify that your child is struggling in school.
Mhm.
Nobody can quite figure out what's going on, and you may not have gone on the journey of 6 million people talking to you about your kid, but the school recognizes that they need to do a few things a little different. So they start the informal IEP, individualized education plan process. The challenge with an IEP is an informal IEP is that teachers technically don't have to follow it. And the school can't really enforce it. An informal IEP is usually in place when there's no formal diagnosis, or you're still going through testing, or you just recognize that a little bit of support is needed or whatever. So it's not a bad place to start.
Yeah.
But, you know, where the fun begins is the formal IEP process. And I have so many dead trees in my house covered with IEPs. It's
Yeah. I
crazy.
have, many,
Gadzooks worth.
bits of my hard drive. I did a Google search because I use Google Drive
Yep.
where I store most of my important stuff, so that when hard drives die, I don't have to worry about it. And I was pulling out a lot of the IEPs. So
Oh, it's
I'll back up.
crazy.
I'll back up a second. My one of my teen daughters came to me. We had a conversation after the first day of school, and she said, like, she really wants to be, she's been thinking of the things that she actually needs that would help her in school, and she
Amazing.
wants to be part of the developing the IEP for her this year. And so she wanted me to actually, she needs to see what it looks like, so in her head to know what,
Process it.
so that she can know what she can ask for. Like, there's what you need and what you can ask for, and they don't always correlate in the education system.
No.
Like, what if we, like, this is all supposed to be about understanding the student's needs and accommodating those needs.
Yep.
But you have to do it within the limited lingo that the school system allows. And again, it was really frustrating. I act as an advocate, an education advocate for parents. And what that means is that when they have, okay, one of the things there's so many points to jump on this. Like, it's like,
We'll cover them. It's all
I
good.
know. All right. So the whole process starts with, you see a kid has your child has a need, or the school sees that your child has a need, and you can do an informal IEP. But once there is a diagnosis of any sort, then you go through a process called the IPRC, which is the
Oh yeah. Been there.
individual placement and resource something or others. I forget what the C stands for.
Acronyms.
Oh, actually, I have that right here for IPRC is, come on, not diagnosis. It's
Identifying
underlying
students with special identification, placement, and review committee.
committee. I knew it was I thought the C was a committee. Anyways, it's always a committee. So once that's done, they figure, what level of support your child needs in general in school and what placement they're going to be. And this is what, for the IPRC meetings and sometimes the IEP meetings, I go in with parents, and thanks to Zoom all across the province, I've dealt with several different boards, and the same set of needs that, let's say 5 kids have in 5 different school boards might give different placements and different language used to describe those placements in those 5 different things. And so there's no commonality of language. There's no commonality of, what does informal support mean? Well, in some school boards, that means they have an EA that goes around and occasionally supports kids. In our school board, informal support means that the school board provides some resources to the teacher on what and on how to support the child.
Yep.
As opposed to formal, which means direct with the child.
That's where you can get an EA, or you can get other.
Yeah. So like just that language there. So informal and formal have different meanings, and what the child's needs does, what a particular child's needs in terms of enabling those things are different. And a lot of it revolves around what the school boards are able to support. So back to my daughter, she wants to know, what's the language used? Like, what are the things that, she knows what she's beginning to put to words of what she needs. She said this year, she really, self-advocacy is her goal. She wants to be able to, explain her needs so that she can have her needs met better.
You know what? It's funny that you say that, because my son never got asked to be a part of the process.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know he could be.
Yeah. None of my kids have been, she's saying this year, nope, I need to be.
Well done. Because I wish that had been an option, because who am I to decide what my son works for him and whatever. I just found the whole process. So I understand the process, and don't get me wrong. I realize there is some value in the process, but what I think is going to evolve out of this conversation, Maddie, is that the individual who the IEP is being developed for must be a part of it. Now, when they're 5, okay, that's one thing, but you could ask, do you like it when the bells go off? Do you like it when you go to gym?
Yeah.
Now, the reason I bring up the gym thing is that because had I realized Thomas could be a part of the process, his grade 1 would have gone much different, because he had been diagnosed with hyperacuity, a really, really good hearing. And they were putting him in a gym combined with 2 classes with screaming girls. And I'm a girl, so I get it. And throwing balls and whatever. And it took them 3 months to tell me that my son would stand in the corner with his hands over his ears. And I'm telling you, it was everything in my being not to throw a chair, because I was like, are you kidding me right now that it's taken you 3 months to tell me you've been torturing my son after you asked me to take him for hearing tests? I did what you asked. I gave you the reports. I came in and had another freaking meeting with you and went over the reports and explained about the hyperacuity and whatever.
Yeah.
And you put him in a gym with 60 kids.
Yeah.
And screaming and balls and echo.
Yeah.
They wouldn't look at me.
And the interesting thing is, the understanding of the complexities of sensory challenges.
Yes.
Which I think most teachers, most educators that have autistic kids in their classes, somewhat can anecdotally tell you that they see issues with sound and sights and do
they take action, or do they just we'll take care of it at the next IEP meeting?
They don't. Well, here's the interesting thing in the IEP that I've been noticing for the last couple of years. There's no place in there for sensory. There's sensory accommodations, but not in terms of needs and strengths. Like it's only recently that we've talked about sensory diets. This is only been recently that OTs are more called in with autistic kids.
Yeah.
Because it's what are educators usually seeing? Behaviors.
which
And
is not a
behave
behavior, it's a
Yeah,
reaction.
exactly. And that understanding that the behavior is the tip of the iceberg, and then all of the other things,
Yeah.
going to try to understand the needs of the kids as opposed to the needs of the system. The needs of the
Ask
system are
the
for the child.
kids.
Yeah, the needs of the system is the child comply and that the class can proceed. The needs of the child are I'm having issues communicating. There's sensory issues, or I don't
I need a
understand the social.
walk.
Yeah,
I need earphones. I need,
yes,
yeah,
I have stim energy that needs to be able to be allowed to get out.
yeah,
Instead of being stop stimming, stop tapping, stop this, stop that, stop this. Stop is the word that we hear the most when it comes to us.
yes.
And is stopping, anytime you stop doing something, the thing that you're doing, the energy behind it needs to go somewhere. Like, everything's
It
a
gets dammed
continuum.
up, and then what do you do
Yeah,
with it? Then at
exactly. It
two
tends to,
o'clock, you have a meltdown
yeah,
because
yeah.
it hasn't been allowed to go anywhere.
And that's the thing, like some parents experience, why is I'm getting glowing reports of my kid at school, but he's a terror when he gets home. Well, it's because he's had
He's
the
had to
mask
stop
all
all
day.
day.
Yeah, and he's been able to do it. Good for the kid, but bad for the kid. Because we don't, until very recently, we don't. I'm saying very recently because I'm in many cases this is still happening. We're not looking at what the child actually needs. Now we're starting to I'm looking at the language of OEP, looking at the language of IEP from like now compared to 10 years ago. 10 years ago, it was really all about the child's deficits, what they
Yep.
weren't doing, and how we are gonna, push them through. Like, what are the things that we're gonna do so that they can pass? It wasn't
I should
about
pull out
meeting the
my
kids'
son's
needs.
IEPs. They were terrible. I hated
Yeah,
them.
and they were a really bad thing, and I started complaining about this. Like, I don't want to put anything of I don't want to put all of my kids' deficits here. Start putting, what are the thing, what is he good at,
Yep.
what are the strengths? And I'm now, I think enough of us parents have done that the official IEP document in Ontario has off in the first page, like, what's the diagnosis, but then what are the students' strengths and what are the students' needs? Oh, so much better. Doesn't really make much of a difference. Somewhat. It makes a difference to the parents in these meetings because
You
we're
don't
not talking,
feel so,
yeah, attacked.
yeah, like
Yeah,
I don't remember having a single meeting that I felt I came out of it and the IEP was going to make any difference
yeah,
to my son's year. And I had so he was 10. So he's diagnosed at 7 as autistic, diagnosed at 9. Now his official autism diagnosis was Asperger's syndrome.
yeah.
And there's a reason I say that, because now all the levels have changed, and I would say he's level 1, but anyway.
There's no
So,
such thing as levels.
I know, but which is why I kind of, and I
Yeah,
recognize the whole Hans Asperger controversy, but what I like about the Asperger's diagnosis is that there are many more positive things attributed to an Asperger's
yeah,
diagnosis that
yeah,
should be attributed to autism in general.
yeah.
And so it was a way to kind of get around the autism diagnosis without, I know, but
Yeah.
we ran into so many people that were
it's the
like,
autism
oh, he's
lottery.
autistic.
I
And
know.
but if you said he has Asperger's, oh, that's okay then.
Yeah. And this is why
What?
this is why my biggest thing that I really wish we could get to is, we look at supporting needs instead of labels,
Yeah.
because you have one child that has, that fidgets, right? They could be autistic. They they could have Tourette's. They could have
ADHD.
ADHD, right? And any of those three
My
things,
son's got both. Whoop, whoop.
the need. Oh, all right, he's leveled up.
Yeah. Like Donkey Kong.
I
Boom.
yes, I'm at level 36 of my autism.
Oh,
All right,
autistic. Yeah.
I'm ready to give a whole string of all the things I'm interested about one topic. Woohoo! All
No,
right,
he was really
which
good,
we do.
honestly. I mean, I know
Yeah,
we're jumping around,
yeah,
but he was really good about that.
yeah.
He never got stuck. And I think that's, so there's positives and negatives to the way autism presents in my son.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
that he is very amenable He's very malleable when he was little. So he was very accommodating, and he wasn't masking because he continued to do the behaviors. So I'm in no way suggesting that he would change who he was or whatever, but he was easy to interrupt. So if he got stuck on something, it was easy to divert him and not have a meltdown. And so, but the problem with that, so there's a flip side to that little nugget, is that he was too easy from an autism perspective for the school board or the schools to manage him. So they would keep removing services, and they would keep taking, because, well, he's doing really well. He's doing well because I work like a freaking nut job.
Yeah.
To help him learn these things and, work with you and whatever. Nothing you're doing is helping the situation, just FYI.
Yeah.
And so that's the deficit, is that when the child is managing, and if God forbid they exceed the IEP, the challenge with that little development is that the next year, well, he didn't need that. He didn't need that last year.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's like, okay, but this is a new year and he's grown and his brain has changed and new things are coming up. So what's that got to do with it?
One of the most frustrating things that I experienced, especially in the elementary years, was that there might be an intense amount of support given in grade 1, 2, and 3, but the idea, and they would say this is the idea, is we're going to lower things about, because by the end of grade 6, he won't need any, because there won't be any supports like this in grade 7 and 8. So this is the thing that I have been seeing in the last 5 years, is a phenomenal amount of difficulties, and parents and teachers wondering what the hell's going on when in between grade 6 and grade 9. It's like the kids were doing fine, now they're not.
That's because you took everything away.
Well, or it's also because kids change the most at that time.
Well,
their needs change
because the amygdala is shrinking.
Exactly. So it actually, you should be actually starting to up support and then bring it down, because between the grade 6 and grade 9, kids are changing phenomenally in the way they process things, like puberty,
growth,
everything is changing. Their ability to handle kids, the ability to relate to peers. If they're not changing, but their peers are changing, what does that mean? Girls get catty, boys get,
but that's where the social development and the maturity development really starts to show. And what we found was that during grades, say 1 to 4, it didn't really matter as much. Right. The fact that Thomas was a bit behind and whatever. No, then we got into grades 5 and 6, and it really started to matter. And the special services at Mohawk School, which I got to tell you, I think it's Liz McIntyre. She was fantastic. We found one person anyway. She advised us to advocate for self-contained learning for grades 7 and 8. And they explained the process. We did talk to Thomas about it, and he thought that would also be a good idea, whatever. However, I then get a call or a something from the superintendent of special education. And I remember this meeting so clearly. So when I know I'm likely to get angry, I tend to find a safe space so I can pace. Because if I have to sit and be angry, it's going to get worse. Whereas if I'm sort of, it's sort of like solar power, right? Like you can't take in energy and discharge it at the same time. So I need to, if you're giving me, I gotta discharge it somehow, or it's going to get ugly.
It's just like stim energy. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm working at Girl Guides of Canada. I went upstairs to the empty boardroom. Thank God it was huge. It's like literally the size of my house, and paced. Like I did a route, and I'm talking to this woman and she says to me, and I quote, "Well, our concern about moving Thomas into self-contained learning for grades 7 and 8 is that's where strong social relationships are developed for high school." And I literally had to stop and collect myself and said, okay, do you know anything about autism at all? Like, anything, give me a nugget, because well, as a matter of fact, I do, and I have this and I have that and I have the other. I said, okay, If you did, then you would understand that the social is the biggest problem. We take care of the social by Friday night family swims, and we have a skating club, and he's in Cubs and scouting, and he's whatever. What he does not need to worry about is managing 30 hormonal 13-year-olds as he tries to onboard his academics and what have you. Then I had to go in front of a panel and defend our decision to have Thomas admitted to the self-contained learning for grades 7 and 8. And so the principal was there, and the special resource person was there, and then I was there. So they say their pieces, and all the statistics and data and the blah blah horseshit. And the lady on the panel looks at me and she says, "So Mrs. Plouffe, do you have anything to say?" I'm like, "As a matter of fact." And the special resource person and the principal literally were like sitting, they kind of went, huh.
It's like the meme of Homer going into the bush.
Yeah, that's just the blast radius. They were like, because they were waiting, right? And I said, come with me on a little, journey for a second. And I said, do you remember your first day of work? And they were both looking at me. I said, you walked in and you didn't know who to talk to, and you didn't know where the coffee machine was, and you weren't sure about breaks and all that kind of stuff. I said, but over the course of weeks and days, you get to know the lay of the office. You get to understand and know your coworkers. You don't talk to Sally before she's had her coffee. You don't talk to David before he's, answered his emails or whatever. And you learn all of that stuff. And eventually the first day disappears and you don't have to worry about it. And they're like, well, yeah. I said, so that first day is my son's life every day. Every day he has to walk in and relearn the social dynamic of the classroom. Every day he has to walk back in and relearn, what the teacher's doing, what the routine is and whatever. I said, every day is a first day for him. For months, not weeks. I said, so he needs to be in a situation where that first day doesn't last for months, and we can focus on his academics, and we can focus on his strengths, and he can, in a safe environment with only 12 other kids, learn social skills and not have to navigate 30 relationships with 30 different people every day. And to her credit, the lady on the panel cried a little. And I was like, I said, get him out. Like, I don't give a crap what his IEPs have said. I don't give a crap that you think he's handling the day well. He comes home and he's a hot freaking mess. And he's got to go for a nap because he's had to navigate 30 relationships with 60 different people and whatever. And I'm like, why does he need to do that?
I think so many autistics come home from school or work or whatever the thing more exhausted than the average person, because there's just so much to process, so many things
first day every day.
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, it's like you just have one small change in an environment, and it means that you have to sort of figure out what to do. Oh, and like supplies, supply teachers can be the worst days because there's a change.
They don't know about the IEP either.
Yeah, exactly. There's a and it could be all kids change when there's a supply teacher. So it's not just like the supply teacher changing is the thing.
The whole energy in the room.
Sorry about that. I breathed in too much air.
Silly rabbit.
I know. Just a second. Water.
No, and I
gotta water the rabbit.
I mean, I think that happens for everybody, is that all it takes is one person to change the dynamic. And if you've gotten into a rhythm, then it becomes something that you don't have to manage as much, and your energy isn't as drained at the end of the day, because it has eventually become habit. It has become known. And then somebody piddles around with that. Are your eyeballs itching? Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, so some dust got in my eye and it's very itchy, so I'm just trying to
Got like
manage here.
dust and water, and you're falling apart. Are you a desert? Like, what's going on?
No, a dessert. I'm feeling like I think I'm a little bit chocolatey today.
Are you
A
one
little
F or two?
Oh. Ah,
Go
I'm
ahead.
yeah. The whole IEP process, like there's what it is and what we think it is and what it should be.
Could be.
And yeah, could be. I'm looking at my child's IEP right now. I've got it in front of me. And so much of the accommodations are things that they're system things that the system thinks that they might be able to do for the
Yeah.
child, right?
Yeah.
You know, like additional time, digital notes, extra time for processing,
Yeah.
you know, time management needs. These are not real, you know, in many cases, they're not real. They're once they're set up, they're not necessarily things that they need to do. But the moment that the teacher, I mean, again, who's also trying to manage, you know, 20, 30 kids, who many of them also have IEPs, which is one of the reasons why a lot of the
Well, there's a cap in classrooms, so I think you can only have, I think it's up to 5. If you have a class of 25, I believe there's a cap of like 5 IEPs per class. I believe.
that is well, okay, so what if you have, you know, what if you have, let's just imagine a moment, grade 6, because my kids aren't past that point, but let's just go to grade 6 for a moment. And you've got 60 kids in the school, 60 grade 6 kids in the school.
Yeah.
And you have 25 of them with IEPs.
Oh, yeah.
So
That's
more and
crazy.
more kids are having IEPs,
Yeah.
which is one of the reasons why they're getting less and less specific and covering fewer and fewer needs that are individual. You know, it's why they're having, you know, fewer EAs. There's a lot of things, but
I think
in
there's
terms of,
fewer EAs because there's less resources being put towards the schools.
yes,
They're being asked to handle more and more. Like
they're
and
not trained specifically on the actual like it's not just autistic kids that require IEPs. Like you know, there's kids with physical disabilities, there's kids with intellectual disabilities, there's kids with different learning disabilities that are not tied to a specific diagnosis of anything else. Like
and the
there's a lot
resources
of
aren't
reasons.
there. We
Yeah,
have, so I think
yeah,
part of, and I say this as the parent of a kid with disabilities, but I think on some level we are trying to integrate too much without the appropriate support. You cannot expect a school, for an example, if there's a population of 200 and 10 of those kids are very high need with a combination, right? So an intersectionality of a physical deficit,
yeah,
a mental deficit, and maybe, you know, allergic to peanuts. I don't know.
yeah.
And you have 10 kids who are that high need, understandably and agreeably, they are going to get all of the EA time because that's a massive safety risk.
So one of the things to counter that is to build things like universal design in the classrooms, where you're supporting you're supporting a wider amount of needs from the get-go. You're
Agreed.
focusing on the needs first. You know, you're trying to find, how do we, you know, our class is inclusive. What are the accommodations that we need to make, instead of saying,
Bullshit.
how do we make it inclusive? You know, because if inclusive is inclusion is the goal, you know, it's really hard to get there. But if inclusion is the start, right, when you're, you know,
That's
you're
the
starting,
problem, is that the school
and
system wasn't designed for that. And so it's
I
all
know,
it's all
but
retroactive fitting, which is not happening.
I know, but there is a move right now. We're training educators on autism, but we're training them on universal design
Yeah.
as part of that. You know, hopefully, you know, within a couple of years, we'll have a good amount of teachers and EAs and all the educators
Yeah.
that will have a sense, like, it, you know, you're trying to learn about autism specifically because that's important. But there's, you know, if we're looking at universal design, like what's the sensory makeup of the class? Like you know, having visual. Some people are visual learners, we know that,
Yep.
and some people are audio learners, we know that. Some people are tactile. So if you do something that has sort of all three methods, to start with, instead of just dealing, up to now, things have been mostly either audibly only or visual only.
Yep.
You write things on the board. So knowing that kids need different, and some kids need tactile, some kids need to fidget. The more you bring that into the classroom to start with,
The better it works for everybody.
then the
Yeah.
need to do specific individual accommodations. First of all, it's lessened, but it's also not as difficult to add on to what's already there. And so it's an attitudinal shift, not necessarily. It's investing a little bit.
It's fixing
But you're
perception.
getting, yeah. It's this the problem that we've faced as parents of kids whose needs need to be accommodated in school. Because and I'm just going to say this right now, I hate the term special need, and almost the vast majority of those of us who are disabled hate the term special anything.
As you should.
Yeah, like
because the connotation is not positive.
Yeah, exactly. There's no good. We really need to eradicate special education and call it accommodated education, or just call it something
resources.
else.
Why can't it just be resources?
Yeah, it's additional resources or whatever. But calling it special education is, it puts a target on the kids. There's no good that comes out of using that language, so let's not use the language.
There's a lot of assumptions that come with that around. So you see somebody, for an example, who has cerebral palsy, and when you say, oh, there's special needs, the automatic assumption is that there's an intellectual deficit as well. I'm here to tell you, my friend Dave Dame, who has cerebral palsy, talks the shit out of that, and he is currently working for Microsoft as one of the disability and inclusion. I have to get his title. So when we work hard to change that, and it's so funny that you say that, Maddie, in a positive way, in that part of what we do at Spirit Careers Canada, part of what has evolved, which was not our intent at the beginning at all, but we're getting there. We're becoming the it for this, is autism and advanced manufacturing and trades, and working with employers to understand and address and get rid of their assumed biases around the risk of having somebody who's autistic in the trades or on an advanced manufacturing floor or what have you. And one of the great statistics that we found was in advanced manufacturing across Canada, there's about a 47% accident rate just because of the nature of the beast. But when you look at the neurodiverse accident rate across Canada, it's 7%. Right. And when I trot those little statistics out, or I was talking to an employer and I said, let's just for a second, I said, you have 244 employees or whatever in, that. Yes. I said, so statistically, you already have 3 autistic people working for you. You should have seen his face. He was like, snuck in. What's going on? I said, and you haven't had a single request for accommodation. You haven't had a single request for whatever. I said, here's the other thing to consider. When you have an employee, neurodiverse or neurotypical, who comes on the job and asks for a smoke break, that's an accommodation.
Yep.
And he's like, well, no, I'm like, yes, it is. Especially if they ask to take an additional break or whatever. Every time you say yes, that's an accommodation for an atypical behavior in your workplace. So what's the difference between that and somebody asking for instructions to be written down or delivered a different way? And when I was an instructor, what I did with my students was take them through an assessment to find out whether they were visual, auditory, or kinesthetic in their processing for learning. Did all of that, and they look at it and they're like, Mrs. Plouffe, so how are you going to use this? So I'm not going to use it. What do you mean? I'm like, I already teach you auditorily, visually, and kinesthetically. That's why we do flashcards. That's why I put stuff up on the board and talk to you about it. That's why I lead discussions. That's why you have study notes. I said, but you need to know how you best learn. And I think that's what an IEP doesn't do. It doesn't empower a student to know their strengths and to know how to learn, which would really help.
And this is where, going back to my daughter who wants to take this on, You know,
which
I'm
rah-rah.
looking at her IEP from grade 7,
Oh
and
Lordy.
I mean, it it's is it really helpful? I mean, it talks about strengths in, you know, IEP words. It talks about needs in IEP words.
IEP.
And
IEP lingo.
yeah, it's really, if you wanted to play buzzword bingo, my God, you just read things off an IEP and you'd win
Oh, yeah.
bingo really quickly.
I hear you.
But it's, you know, does this provide a path to, you know, her needs and where her goals, right?
Yeah.
And that's what, like, it's, I'm looking here. You have learning expectations, teaching strategies, and assessment methods. And so, like, the learning expectations, they're sort of the goals. And but it's really, really, I'm reading it now. These goals aren't helping her move forward very much. They're goals that are so small enough that it would be easy to say they met with the,
Oh, yeah.
with the minimal amount
Because then they
of
can
effort.
oh, look what we did. We met our
Yeah.
goals. Meanwhile, your kid's still not doing
Yeah.
important things.
Well, the interesting thing, her annual program goals, will take more initiative for her own learning in various academic situations. She will learn and apply various strategies and tools to advocate for her own needs
Who's
and increase
teaching
her
her those?
level of independence in the classroom. Exactly. The interesting thing is she went to a summer camp this year, and that two. She went to a camp as she was a camper. The other one, she was a counselor in training. And this summer has changed and molded and formed her. Took the little
Because
bit
of
of who she
leadership
was, and
development.
exactly that. In that summer, these programs did more in those 4 weeks
Yeah,
than the whole last 2 years of school, where this has been their goal. Because she
sweetie.
now has this, she's taken this on, and
Because they gave her the right tools to do.
yes.
This is what drives
Oh
me
my God.
freaking bananas. So they are asking students, expecting students to onboard advocacy skills and leadership skills, and yet they don't teach them.
Yeah.
And they don't model them.
Exactly.
And one of the things that we're doing, right? So when the Ability Hub opens, because Maddie's on our team for that, we are going to be focused on leadership development, because I can guarantee you 80% of the neurodiverse individuals that walk through our door will never have been exposed to leadership development, because there's this assumption that leadership means you're going to lead a team, or you're going to open a company, or you're going to be a whatever. Oh, bugger that. That is not what
babysitting is leading, you know. And so many kids, so many autistic kids aren't even given the opportunity. Like, they're steered on a path away from the things because
responsibility and leadership.
Because of yeah, exactly, of any kind. Because there's this mistaken thinking that we're less than, like, that we might not be able to handle it, you know, or we don't want to, or we don't have the skills for it. Of course, we don't. Like, if you're not shown the way, you're not going to get the skills. If you're going to get the skills, you're going to find it from someplace else. You're going to bumble into it instead of being given the same.
You can't even bumble
options.
because you're not allowed to bumble, because you can't bumble when you're baby. No, and I mean that. I
know.
love that word.
Yeah,
because that is exactly what. And so the hallmark, folks, of an autism diagnosis is not being able to onboard certain skills osmotically, because that's what freaking autism's all about. So why would you I'm getting angry. Why would you put a kid in a situation where they're going to advocate and they're going to do whatever? Okay. Who's teaching that?
Yeah.
Because if you are expecting that to just sort of suddenly spring forth fully formed.
Oh my God. Yeah. I'm
I have
46
worked for
years
some
old.
stupid managers. I'm here to tell you that's not a thing.
I'm 46 years old, and what is one of the hardest things for me to do? Self-advocate.
Yep.
I mean, I'm real, as you may have heard, I can speak mostly fluent-ish, correctly-ish.
And we're trying to disprove that.
Exactly. No, I'm able to speak. I'm able to get things across. I'm able to advocate for a group of people. But, you know, in my own life, what's the hardest thing for me to do? A, know the issues I'm struggling with. B, know what might need to resolve that. And C, ask, you know, find the thing that will help you with that. And then D, actually ask it.
I love how you're counting with your fingers and using letters.
Well,
by the way.
yeah. So,
A? B?
okay. I don't know whether it's they're points forms. Like sometimes
Or
there's ABC
bullets. Got it.
bullets. Yeah,
I'm
like
on board.
dot.
Yeah.
I haven't been
Ellipsis. So
exactly.
that's I
Or
100%
lives.
agree with you.
Yeah.
And so when was the pandemic? So March 2020. There's a point.
In the year 2020 and 1 and 2.
You sound like a wrestling guy from
Well,
the.
that's exactly what I was going for.
Okay, well done.
Yeah.
So March 2020, I was supposed to head to Florida. I had completed my John C. Maxwell leadership and personal development
Yes.
coaching designation. And so why did I choose John Maxwell? There's a point to this. Because
leadership.
What's that?
Strengths-based leadership.
Strengths-based leadership, absolutely. And curiosity coaching, which I think most educators lack. And then no offense, but you're not taught that. So how could you? Much like, an autistic 8-year-old advocating for themselves with never having been taught. And the fact that it was all, there was a very dedicated program around youth leadership. And so what we're doing as part of Autism Job Club and Spiro and other things is offering this leadership development program called I Choose. And it's aimed at teenagers. And the reason I feel it's important is that if you are an individual who has a neurodiverse situation and you've never been given the opportunity for leadership development, why am I going to throw at you a Tony Robbins in your face, rah bullshit leadership development course? Why am I not going to meet you where you are, which is at the beginning of your leadership development journey, and give you a very low barrier to entry on learning about leadership and how it can apply to you? And again, we're not talking about you heading out and leading a team or doing or whatever, but if you're 15 years old and you're in high school, you should be a part of your IEP discussion.
Absolutely.
And you need those leadership skills to, as Maddie said, advocate for yourself and recognize what you need, and in a calm, constructive manner, participate in the conversation. And show that strength that you have, which then opens up opportunities for so many other things, because leadership development develops confidence. Confidence develops the ability to advocate for yourself, to go after and fill your knowledge gaps and all these other things that I think an IEP should include. Especially when you get into high school.
I'm thinking the more we're talking about this, and the more I've been talking with my daughter about this. I mean, she wants to understand what what the IEP looks like. She wants to understand the vocabulary, the lexicon. So but honestly, I think out of this, like one thing that needs to be done is there needs to be a guidebook for kids, by kids, to help them be part of the IEP. And I'm going to talk to my daughter about that, because like, oh my gosh, she's she really, I mean, I love all my kids. They all have their unique strengths that are unique.
You do have a bit of a Brady Bunch going on.
I in terms of leadership skills, every other sibling of theirs knows that this child definitely like the joke was, if I'm in my 60s and I need to be looked after, who's going to be the one that will come look after me? It's this one. Who's the one in a crisis? Who's the one that's going to figure things out on what to do? It's this one. She has other challenges that are more challenging than some of her siblings, but she has these leaderships. She's got this inherent leadership thing. She just needs to know what to do with it, and she's learning now about herself. But she needs the opportunity and the words unlocked and the path unlocked, because really,
the permission to be a leader.
What's the point of an IEP? It's to to accommodate the needs of a student. And if you're not taking if you're not taking the student's own experiences as part of this, this really isn't for the student, it's for the school.
Maddie,
and that's
600% for the school, so that they can pat themselves on the back and say, we did this and we met these goals. And meanwhile, I'm sorry, I mean, I'm not sorry, but I'm Canadian, so I'm sorry. I have been in the education system myself for a very long time. And then I dealt with this baloney
Same here.
for 14 years or longer on behalf. So I'm not coming at this as a newbie who's never done it before. I'm here to tell you this system is broken. And I asked my son's resource teacher if I wasn't who I am, right? I have been a stubborn individual. I was trying to find the right word, so I hesitated, but stubborn will do. Assertive, whatever. Since I was like 6 years old. It just is who I is.
Yeah.
So I said to her, if I wasn't who I am, would Thomas be doing as well as he is right now? And bless her heart.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. He would have fallen through the cracks because he's polite, because he's quiet, because he can manage, and whatever. I was absolutely gobsmacked that if I didn't advocate for my kid and set that example of advocacy. So now, as I say this out loud, I just put it together. My son is a great advocate for himself. He doesn't take a lot of crap lying down. And when he wants to do something, he wanted to do a local employment program. And I said, all right, off you go. Go find it, go sign up for it, go do whatever. And he did. He didn't hesitate.
Yeah.
I had to give him a little, and then, but I set that example that if you want something done or you need something for somebody, you step up and you say something.
Yeah.
And if it can't be for yourself, like Maddie has shared, you are a phenomenal advocate for your kids, and you are a phenomenal advocate for the autism community. And what I really admire about you is when you see something that's unfair or could be improved or whatever, you don't hesitate to involve your time and your expertise and your point of view. And likewise, we were joking beforehand because we have a difference of opinion about the mom.
A royal difference.
We have a royal difference on Megan. But what you said was, that doesn't mean we can't discuss it.
Yeah.
That just means we have to agree to disagree on certain things. And what you also said, which I found really cool, was, so we were talking about Megan and the decision to take the kids overseas.
Yeah.
Now, all of my family, 95% of my family, and my dad was second of 4 and my mom was second of 5. I got a lot of family, I got to tell you, like a lot, all in England. Haven't seen any of them in 30 years. Some of them, I should say, in 30 years. And when you were looking at the problem, this comes back to IEPs, I promise. When you were looking at the problem, you looked at it one way. And then I asked you, have you ever lived 8,000 miles away from your family? Because that's what's happening now with Harry and Megan's kids. And so the same thing with IEPs is that when an educator comes at it, they look at it from their knowledge and from their bias and from their experience. When a parent comes at it, we look at it from what we think we know for our kid. What we're forgetting for the most part is to ask the person who it's affecting on some level. 5 years old, you can ask, when you're sitting for too long, how does that make you feel? When you're 6 years old, when the noise in the classroom gets too high, how does that make you feel? And what is too high? Yeah. I'll tell you what my noise tolerance is, and that's going to be markedly different than everybody else's because I have weird porpoise hearing as well. When you have to get organized in the morning and you arrive at school, how does the confusion of all the lockers slamming and all the people coming in, how does that affect the rest of your day?
Yeah.
We can't answer that for the individual that we are creating the IEP for.
Yeah.
And if we're not asking them, we're teaching them they don't have a voice in what happens to them.
Yeah. So what's really important, we've talked a lot about what the IEP process is currently, and it's important for parents especially as they're facing going into this right now. The IEP is about the system, how using the system and system words and system experiences to meet the system, how the system can meet the needs of the kids instead of how I'm losing my thought here, but
no, I understand what it's more about managing the resources that the school has available to help with accommodations for a kid versus creating a plan to develop skills with the child and I say child all the way up to 18.
Yeah.
Right. Because this IEP should continue into school. Well, whatever. You little folks. And I think it becomes more about this is what we can offer, and these are the resources we have versus actually, I think what happens is they get caught in a certain way of doing things. It was my experience. And they get caught up in their perception of the diagnosis that your child presents with.
Yeah.
And they get caught up in what they believe are reasonable expectations. And I can't tell you the number of conversations. And if you've been listening to us for a little bit, we're going to be wrapping up soon. You'll know I'm not a fan of other people's expectations taking away opportunities from my child. And when you don't involve your child in the IEP process, you teach them they don't have a voice.
Yeah.
You teach them that their experience doesn't matter. You teach them that they have no say. You do not build advocacy skills with them. You do not build leadership skills with them. And when you are not involved in the process, that depends on which role you're listening to this with. You just let this school create the IEP for you because you think the school has your kid's best interests at heart. And I'm sure on some level they do. You're also abdicating responsibility for what that IEP could look like for your individual kid.
Yeah. And the important thing is, I mean, parents need to sign off on it. So you if you go intentionally, right now we're recording this in the middle of September. IEPs 10 for the school year generally get done from this point to the middle of October. This is a good time to ask your kids, what do you like to do? What do you think you're good at? What do you think you're struggling with? How do you, if you could change something about your school other than not going or more recess, but what are some things what do you want to get out of this year? What are the things that you think that might help you? And
you might be surprised.
Going into that, because the school's going to create the IEP and then say, hey, this is what we think, and then you're going to have a conversation about it. But if you go into it with your own IEP, with your own from
list,
talking with your child, hopefully the end IEP is going to be somewhere in the middle, right? But it's going to definitely in everything. I always suggest centering it on the child's needs.
And reasonable expectations of both things.
Exactly. So when you're centering it on the child's needs, no matter what, the child's going to benefit from that. The school thinks they do. You know that you do. So somewhere in the middle,
can't see my eye roll, but my eyes are rolling right now.
Somewhere in the middle, we're going to get there. But the whole purpose of this chat today is it's about our own expectations, understanding our own expectations, seeing what our kids how they see themselves, and then knowing that we're trying to fit in a system that's not quite ready this here. But your kids, leadership skills are just as important for autistic kids
100% agree.
as the kid who gets A's that's not autistic. It's leadership
be a
skills
crappy leader, by the way.
Leadership skills are life skills.
Yep.
They really are. We call them that especially to make them special for special people, but really
you're using the special word.
Well, exactly. I know because it's not like I'm overusing it because of the preposterousness of it, right?
Well done.
There you go. life skills,
Are for everybody.
leadership skills, they're good for everybody, and they need to be unlocked for our kids.
They
They
need to be
need to be
demonstrated and modeled
exactly,
and made accessible.
yeah. And our kids need to be stretched. Not, every once in a while they need to be nudged in that direction,
Yeah.
because it's not something that the world naturally will nudge them to.
Yeah. And this is where
But
you can
we
start that though with an
yeah,
IEP. It's a safe place.
exactly,
Public school is not a make or break. Like, let's be clear.
exactly, yeah,
Grade 1, not a make or break.
no,
But this is the optimal safe time to
yeah,
demonstrate that their opinion matters. And this influences other things. So when your
mhm,
kids are facing those harder decisions in grade 7 and 8,
yeah,
and peer influence is
they,
becoming
yeah,
something, then
yeah,
if you've involved them in the decisions about their life and about what's happening to them and whatever, then they understand that their voice matters.
yeah,
And they understand that, I obviously don't turn them into little Lord Fauntleroys and being all pompous and whatever, but
exactly, yeah.
that's a very dated reference. Wow, sorry about that. Don't turn them
It's
into
hey, you know
shits.
what? I'm sure I was that would be not offensive, but
Uh-oh.
I'll just I was just gonna say we have people listening of all ages to this podcast.
True.
There we go.
So Little
Yeah.
Lord Fauntleroy will not go anyway. You don't have to know the movie, but the reference is universal.
Uh-huh.
Building advocacy skills and building leadership skills does not mean that your child can demand Smarties for supper or what have you.
Exactly.
It does not mean that they can behave poorly, but it does mean
Yeah.
when they struggle with those social constructs
Yeah.
that they're not quite sure how to manage
Yeah.
it, they
Yeah.
will have the strength to ask for help. They will have the strength to say no.
Yeah.
They will have the strength to tell you that something bad has happened
Yeah.
because they'll know now that their voice matters to you.
Yeah.
And if you are struggling with that, so if you are of whatever age group that either, public school and high school was a nightmare, which I hear consistently,
Mhm.
just know that it's never too late to learn those leadership skills that you could have learned during the IEP process and advocate for yourself in other ways. An IEP process, one of the values of it is that it teaches you going forward that you can use that in the workplace and you can use that in other ways so that you do end up in a successful situation that allows you to flourish.
Yeah.
And that's what an IEP is supposed to do. It is
Yeah.
supposed to provide opportunity for growth. It is supposed to provide opportunity to attain goals. It is supposed to provide all kinds of stuff. And as Maddie said towards the beginning, I don't think the process is quite there yet.
Yeah.
I don't recall feeling a lot of benefit. Like this IEP would
Yeah.
show up and I'd be like, what's the point? Like, you're not gonna,
Yeah.
it's great that you want to have another meeting, but I
Yeah.
really don't see the value.
Yeah.
And we shouldn't feel like that,
Yeah.
right? There's a better way to do this.
I wanted to add one more thing about leadership. You're right. Leadership isn't demanding that you have Smarties for dinner. Leadership is offering your reasons why you want you and your siblings want Smarties for dinner, but it's also listening to an alternate argument and accepting that you can be wrong just
Yep.
as much as pushing that you can be right. Leadership is as much about listening as it is about doing.
100% agree.
And that's people have a tendency of thinking leading means I'm in charge.
Yeah. No.
That's a dictatorship, right?
Yeah.
Leadership is more than just making decisions. It's about
Working with the
learning
team.
and listening. You can't if you're demanding everything, if you're deciding everything, but not looking at all of the things around you, you're not really leading. And that's
No.
the difference between being a team leader and a manager, really. The term, managers manage, team leaders lead, and leading doesn't mean being right all the time.
Yeah. It was interesting because I was a Girl Guide leader for many years, and I ran into a situation where somebody decided, so the teams in Girl Guides for running a unit have definitive roles, and one of them is contact guider, and then you have other roles within that. And just through whatever, I became the contact guider, but never was it a dictatorship, right? Like anyway, I won't go into that. It was a collaborative effort to deliver excellent programming and grow our unit and whatever. Somebody came into the unit and the perception was that contact guider was the shit. Like, if you were the contact guider, you ran the unit and whatever. Well, no. And I am never comfortable forcing anybody to do anything. Like, let's have a conversation. But that person never saw any of that. Just the perception was, oh, you're in charge. Well, I'm only in charge because Girl Guides requires somebody's name to be on the list, and I happen to be a type A, whatever. I said, but we all do it together. So they decided they needed to be the contact guider. And the challenge was that they didn't understand that leadership comes through collaboration and communication and discussion and what have you. Don't perceive leadership as an opportunity to inflict your will on others. That is not true leadership. That is Hitler.
Yeah.
We're not a fan.
The biggest thing I've learned in the last 10 years is how to listen more.
Yeah.
And really getting away from the echo chambers of people whose opinions and things are exactly like yours. And
that's dangerous.
And listening to alternating things, because I've learned that listening to other people's perspectives will help change my own, refine it. And sometimes I hear an argument that I hadn't heard of before, and it makes me, instead of like holding on to like, but I'm right.
Yeah,
my precious opinion, I am right. I've learned that I'm not always right. I may be right more often than not, but I'm not always right. And other people can also be right at different things, like that.
That's what we need in the education system. Yeah. We need to remove this unconscious bias towards I'm right and you're wrong because I know better.
Yeah, there's such there are so many silos. And there's the educators, then there's the admin staff and the administration, then there's the school board, and then there's the union on another side of it, and then there's the parent and the parents, and then the child. Everything should be around how do we meet the child? How do we best meet the child? How do we best meet the needs of all the children? That gets murky and lost. I mean, I think everybody thinks that that's what the goal is, but when you're protecting your own thing, and when parents are not considered co-equal, we're not considered partners, it's challenging, and that's the attitudinal barrier that we need. And I see it, a lot of educators are working to accept the parents as as an equal to them in terms of what may work best, and I see, but they're fighting the system. They're fighting the system that has them seeing 30 different unique kids, as well as the rules of how you should do things and the way things have always been done. But I'm seeing that shift, and I'm really wanting to push that shift. And I'm seeing that we're trying to, one of the things that I was part of the Ontario Autism Program's advisory panel back in 2019, and one of the recommendations we really had was that the school system needed to allow community supports, those whether the SLPs, OTs, behavioral analysis. Okay, all right. I'll end this right after this. I lost my train of thought. Oh, go figure.
Sorry, but I have to.
We said that it was important that community providers be listened to because they have the expertise of the child as well, because they're working with them. And I think that's the goal that I think we need to work on most, is that all of the people involved in a children's lives have an equal understanding and should be at the table to help find the way to best meet the kids' needs.
Yeah.
And the kid is that's the goal. But starting off with, you got to focus on the kid. You got to ask them and see what what their perspective is. And if they're teens, they should be in the meeting.
I
In most
100%
cases.
agree.
Yeah.
We have to go. And I messaged Maddie why. So I'm not sharing that with everybody, but So thank you so much for listening today. What we were talking about today was individualized education plans. He's waving his hand like the queen. They are waving their royal fingers. And they are not amused. So individualized education plans, if you are autistic, then it's likely you have experienced this particular cluster of weirdness. And what we're encouraging is that it should be a conversation, not something that's inflicted on a kid. It should be collaborative between all of the people involved in delivering the IEP to the child. And we're not slamming teachers and admins as, whatever. The process, which must be equally frustrating for the people involved from a school board perspective, isn't optimal. And it's time for some change, and it's time for some conversation from the folks who are most impacted by it. And it's time for, Stephen Lecce or Leachy or Litchy or whatever the flip his name is, to
the Honorable Minister of Education,
the Honorable Ding Dong of anyway, to be realistic about the funding and the resources and the what have you. We cannot continue in this model where there's not enough resources to help all of the kids that need it. And I am not suggesting that we fine tune every little piece. That's not reasonable. But we could be doing better. And I have been in a situation over and over and over again where another child has come in who has greater needs than my son. And the conversation always goes, Thomas is doing really well. It got to the point where I would just say, where's the but? Well, there's no but. I'm like, there's a but.
Yeah, there's but.
Well, so they would just exchange the but for a well. Another child's come in, we have to cut back. My son needs those services. He needed them at the time.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have put them in his IEP if he didn't need them. So the fact that my son then has to suffer as far as not getting the access and support he needs because there's not enough resources is not okay.
I have one of my kids. I got called a lot by school.
Preach.
And every time, and hopefully we'll just make this very quick. Every time there was a call, like such and such child did this, and I would ask, what happened before?
Exactly.
Well, and it was always something that the IEP wasn't covered. They did not do what our plan was or what our safety plan was, and every single time, it was caused by something. Their needs was not accommodated.
Yep.
Their needs was not accommodated,
which had been agreed upon. This was not implemented ahead of time.
These are
like an agreed upon and identified thing.
And so it was after that kid, I realized the IEP, which I had led to believe was something that they're required to follow, was not something that they were not actually doing that. Exactly. and it made it really difficult. And so now with this other child, who wants to take, ownership of the process,
done.
I want to, have her lead on this so that we can help other kids. I'm really hoping that out of this we can come up with something that can be a guide that other kids that want to have their needs met too can use.
Maddie, if anybody can do it, it'll be you. I'm no doubt about that. You're going to get that bit between your teeth and you're going to be like, this is a thing. How am I going to make it happen? Who can I connect with? And you're so very well connected to agencies and advocates and other things that can help make it happen.
Yeah.
That, that's what we need. And then all of your children see that example and take that forward, and they will find what's important to them.
Yeah.
And
we'll turn the IEP process. We'll turn the IEP into the My EP. Seriously.
Okay.
My EP.
Gotcha. Seriously.
All right.
I gotta get my crown out of here.
Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us today, wherever you may be and whatever listening platform you're using.
Yes, there's 11 to choose from, so we're good. Thank you so much, everybody. Our next topic is actually going to be something that we referenced earlier, which is that all that overwhelm that happens with the sensory processing when school starts. I had that, and I'm neurotypical. it's a lot of energy, it's a lot of noise, it's a lot of whatever. And we're going to chit chat a little bit about what that looks like, the intersectionality of neurodivergent diagnoses and how that impacts sensory processing, and what you can do in a school to help yourself. If you're in university and you're dealing with a lot of stuff, you got a kid in public school and you're dealing with it, we're going to chat about all of that. And that's going to be next time on the Autistic Rambler.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
In the words of the Queen,
Ta-ta.
Ta-ta.
Cheerio. Cheerio. And Shreddies too.
Okay.
That's actually how our family used to.
My throne's going to spring a leak. We got to go.
Yeah, my grandmother would say cheerio, and we'd all say and Shreddies too. And that's how we would say goodbye.
Aw, that's cute.
Yeah.
All right. Cheerio.
And Shreddies too.
There you go. Thank you for joining us on Across the Desk and our new series, The Autistic Rambler. Please visit spirocareerscanada.ca to learn more about the tools we're building with the autism community, and please visit theautisticrambler.com to learn more about Maddie Dever.